Hello everyone and welcome to our webinar. Can I just check that you can all hear me okay? If you can just go into the chat box at the bottom and just type in that you can hear me okay, just so we can get started. Perfect, thanks everyone. Welcome to our Business Recovery Planning webinar presented today by Ian McLeish. My name is Ikra Aslam and I am one of the client managers here at Wilson Associates, and I'll be your moderator today. For those of you who are unfamiliar with the webinar environment, we've got some Zoom settings to go over. So you can select the audio settings on the bottom left-hand corner where you can test your speakers. You can submit any questions via the Q&A button. We'll answer your questions at the end of the webinar, but feel free to drop in any questions as we go along through the webinar. And you can, of course, leave the meeting at any time by just clicking that Leave Meeting red button at the bottom. Just to let you know, we are recording the webinar and we will make a recording available to you all, and also the slides will be sent out to everyone as well. So now I'd like to introduce today's presenter, Ian McLeish, who is the Director of Wilson Associates, and Ian will be taking you through the webinar today. Welcome, Ian.
Right, thanks Ikra. Sorry, I've got a bit of a frog in my throat today, everybody. We start off with looking at the thought for the day. I always like to have a thought for the day for these type of things, and as it says there, smooth seas don't make skillful sailors. Now, what that seems particularly relevant just now, as although things are a bit tough and running a business can be a lot more difficult than in what we might call normal times, it also means that we're forced to learn new skills and abilities and mindsets, which will definitely be invaluable once we come out of the other side of this. You know how sometimes we only start doing things which are best for us when we're faced with a very difficult situation, such as losing weight when you're faced with a health scare. Well, in the same sort of way, I've seen many clients start adopting best practice in relation to the business as a result of all these extra difficulties that they're currently facing. Some of these best practices adapted to how things are today and packaged into a robust plan and strategy that I'm going to share today. So without downplaying how difficult things are at the moment for a lot of businesses, let's look how maybe we can get through it and some new business practices we can learn to take us forward successfully. So looking at this is what we're going to cover today. So first, closing the disconnect, and that's the importance of working as a team with your contacts and advisors. You're not alone and there are people there who can help. The need to reinvent. What do you need to do differently as a business as a result of the COVID-19 situation? You look at your budget, both in personal and business financials, and this is a vital and necessary part of any business plan, but I think you'll agree it's not sufficient in itself. Fourthly, we'll look at opportunities, vulnerabilities, and critical challenges. So what new things can you do? And what do you need to be mindful of in the current situation? Fifthly, identifying and managing risks. A detailed and measured assessment of business risks so that you can avoid problems. Goals and actions, there are agreed steps to be taken by the business owners with some accountability attached. Then we'll look at putting everything together as a complete package. This is your business recovery plan, which is what this is all about. Then we'll have a look at next steps, i.e. what are you actually going to do about it and how we can possibly help, and we'll have some questions at the end. So before we start, I just want to throw in a disclaimer, the sort of thing that we always do in these situations. We're not, at Wilson Associates, we're not insolvency specialists here. So, and obviously there are very strict rules and regulations around solvency and insolvency, and some of these have been amended to take account of the impacts of COVID-19. However, if your business is unable to continue to trade as a result of solvency or bank finance issues, we can of course refer you to a suitably qualified specialist. So the first thing I want to talk about in the agenda is closing the disconnect. And I want to share some thoughts about how we can stay better connected at this time. So I'm not talking about how we can be better connected using technology and these things like webinars, all these are important. And we're coming from the perspective of how we can work together effectively and in the future where your expertise can be combined with ours to create outcomes that wouldn't be possible by working alone. So in our view, it's never been more important to create and connect with a team of people who can help you at this time. You can be very lonely running a business, and particularly just now, but there are people to help, whether it's your banker, lawyers, HR advisors, accountants, bookkeepers, that sort of thing. People there who've got experience, we can help give you advice to how you get through this. And you're working with them, you should be able to come up with a much better plan than trying to do it yourself. So at Roslin Associates, our core purpose is to help our clients gain time freedom, money freedom, and mind freedom by helping them build better businesses. And that's why we're running this webinar. It should be just the beginning of how we can work even better together. So take lots of notes, don't be shy of asking questions, and let's go on to the next slide. So, the need to innovate. During times of adversity, we're often forced to think in ways we've never thought before. So kind of to reinvent the way we work or how we behave. We see 4 main opportunities to reinvent your business. So the first one is to innovate. And innovation is defined as the introduction of new things, ideas, or ways of doing something. So a great example that I've seen during the current pandemic is a company, one of our clients, who changed from selling aerospace parts to sourcing and selling PPE equipment. In this sense, innovation is doing something completely different, often using existing skills and technologies. So an example might be to introduce a new product line or a new service. The next thing to look at is the need to re-engineer, and that's the second way to reinvent. Cambridge Dictionary defines re-engineering as to change and improve the design of a product or system. In other words, use what you've already got to produce something completely different. One example that I've seen of re-engineering is beer companies looking at what their plant can make and moving from producing beer to creating their own hand sanitizer. And I think some gin companies have done that as well. Another example might be the Formula One teams who took up the challenge to sort of make ventilators for the NHS. So the third way is need to adapt. The third way to reinvent your business is to adapt or change the way you deliver products or services. So the biological definition of adaptation, which is the process by which a species becomes fitted to its environment. In other words, we take the new normal or new environment that we find ourselves in and see how can we change to suit that environment better. So one example, I suppose, is this webinar. As some of you know, we used to have regular seminars in our office with up to about 12 people in one room. So we obviously can't do that just now, and by using Zoom, we can continue delivering content, but just in a different way. Last week, we spent some time providing an organizational review, a co-structure of the business to a client over Zoom. We did split it into 3 sessions, but it did save time. There was no traveling. The sessions could be recorded so the client could review them. So as we all get used to doing more online, some people are saying that they prefer the new online world. So forced adaptation can have unexpected benefits in certain circumstances. So we know we can reinvent in 4 ways: innovation, re-engineering, adaptation, and number 4 is to widen your lane. And what we mean by that is to broaden your product or service offering. A very simple example would be a cafe who broadens their offering, if you like, from purely prepared sandwiches and coffee to include ready-made meals, boxed sweet treats, selling wholesale ingredients, and perhaps even ingredient bundles with recipes for various different things. So with these 4 ideas in mind, that's innovation, re-engineering, adaptation, or broadening your offering. What can you do in your business? Business recovery planning is all about. What can you do to innovate, re-engineer, adapt, or broaden what your business does? So there's a natural order to reinvent your business. And with business continuity planning back in March, we suggested that you put the oxygen mask on yourself first. In other words, look at your own circumstances as an individual. Business recovery planning is no different. Remember that your business is there to serve you, not the other way around. And you shouldn't be a slave to your business. So step 1 is to put your shareholder owner hat on and define what you need to get from your business in terms of money. Can you make savings in your personal spending to reduce strain on your business in terms of providing cash to you? might have made some savings during lockdown. I know we were probably spending at home probably about 80%, if that, what we normally spent beforehand. And could you carry on some of these savings to put less stress on your business? So updating your personal budget is best done using a template so you don't miss anything. We can actually provide a suitable template to use if you want to use that as part of your business recovery planning. And an easy way to do it is simply look back at your bank statements and see what you typically spend in a month. Of course, you've got to be realistic too, because obviously if you go back to normal, things go back to normal, you'll probably end up spending a bit more anyway. So make sure if you're going to look back, make sure you go back about 4 or 5 months before the start of the lockdown. So that's your personal budget. So you work out how much cash you need to take out of the business each month. So once you've done your personal budget, you can then use that towards making your business budget. Many people have already done a business budget for the year. Maybe they did back in January perhaps. And chances are it's not going to be particularly relevant now, given all the changes that's happened. So we're working with several clients who made plans and budgets at the start of the year, but now they really need to completely overhaul them and take into account the current situation. So we recommend that what we call a bottom-up process. What you do is you start with the increase in cash that you want to achieve for the year. Now this is the extra cash you'd like to have left after your drawings, your tax, loan repayments, etc. For some people, maybe at the moment, the idea of increasing cash may seem a bit pie in the sky. So you might just want to say, what do we need to do to keep the cash the same? It's important to start here, as many businesses have found a sufficient war chest going into the lockdown. So this isn't going to be technical accountingese, as it were. We just want to show you how you can take back control by going through a high-level step-by-step process. It's a simple arithmetical exercise. So if you can add, subtract, and multiply, you can do it yourself. So I'm just going to walk quickly through this revised business budget. So if you start at the bottom, as I say, it's a bottom-up one. That we've decided that we want to have £3,000 more cash at the end of the year. Now, other cash movements, that basically might be getting more money in from your customers who haven't paid you yet. So if you can get £1,000 in, great. That means that's £1,000 less you need to generate in order to get your £3,000 at the end. You need £2,000 to pay back your loan principal, i.e. the capital element, not the interest. In this example, you might need to buy a computer or something for £1,000. Then you've got your drawings, which are not the drawings including your wages, but your drawings which in most small companies would be dividends. So if you add all these numbers up, 3 minus 1 plus 2 plus 1 plus 5, that tells you that you need £10,000 after tax profit. Now, as in round terms, that would mean add the tax back on, we've got a net profit before tax of £12,500. Now, if you know your overheads are 20,000, you might be able to make some savings there. Then you add the profit to your overheads to give you your gross profit that you need to achieve, which is 32.5. And then if your gross profit percentage is 50%, in other words, you get to keep £1 of every £2 you sell at the top level, it tells you need to make £65,000 sales in order to increase your cash by 3,000 at the end, and have enough cash to cover all your drawings, etc., and loan repayments. Hope that makes sense. So ideally from there, what you'll do is you'll complete a 12-month forecast, usually on a month-by-month basis, so that you can work out what you need to actually achieve in terms of sales and gross profit percentage in order to cover everything that you want and have the increase in cash that you want. And what you would do is you can actually use that to track your progress throughout the year. So, and this is where having real-time digital reports of your numbers is so important. Ideally on some software, cloud-based software such as Xero, or sometimes people use QuickBooks. We're not awfully keen on QuickBooks, but Xero is definitely a good one because it speaks to some of the other software we use to produce the different reports. So, for example, if you've identified your sales total for the year to be, say, 500,000, that's about £10,500 a week, roughly, and you want to have a system recording how you're going against that target. You know, did we do £10,500 this week or last week, or where are we towards achieving that each week? Likewise, if you have customer terms, you know, in terms of how long it will take to pay you, you've got 7 days, and the customers have currently taking about 41 days to pay you, you want to do something about that, and you want to measure if that number is improving as a result of all the actions you're going to take. So we strongly recommend that you measure more than about 5 of the most important numbers, and we call these key performance indicators. Some of you will be quite aware of these. Some examples might be daily or weekly sales, your gross profit percentage being achieved, debtor days or increase or decrease in cash for the month. Once you have the KPIs and the budget, it's important to have these numbers loaded into your monthly reporting system so you can track the actual results to your budget. Now, we do this with quite a few clients where we have, as I say, different software which would extract the data from zero and measure it against the KPIs that have been set. And so if anybody listening would like some help with that, just let us know. So we've got the budget in place, but going away from the pure numbers, once you know what your budget is, you want to look firstly at the opportunities that exist in order to achieve that budget. So you've been going along, things have changed. What's new? What could you do differently? What opportunities are there to help you achieve the budget you've set? And again, I would probably recommend on no more than, say, 5 key opportunities. Think of the ideas we talked about earlier about reinventing your business. Opportunities could also be things like working more online with your team, your customers. You may no longer need the same premises. You might need to redefine the roles in your business, and there may be new lines of revenue to pursue or businesses to acquire, depending. So lots of opportunities around. Other ones might be changing what sort of technology you're using or systems to improve your efficiency. So we always recommend taking the time to brainstorm all the opportunities to improve your business. Improve your business. It's also a very empowering exercise. You really need to sort of really drill down and discover what you can before you and then get them into your plan. So the next stage in the plan is the flip side of opportunities, which are vulnerabilities and the most critical challenges. So what are the 5 biggest vulnerabilities in your business right now? It could be cash flow. It could be wiping out of your customer base because nobody can actually buy what you sell anymore because of the lockdown. It could be poor debtor management, or it could be lots of different things. So naming the vulnerabilities in your business enables you to make a plan to overcome them. So name so you can tame. It's a great mindset to have. You need to be brutally honest in your assessment of your vulnerabilities. There's no point painting a nice pretty picture or a rosy plan which avoids all the difficulties, because it's not really going to help you. So once you've identified your 5 biggest opportunities and 5 vulnerabilities, next step is to identify your 2 to 3 most critical challenges. What are the really critical issues you need to address and take action about? These might be things like deciding whether or not to sell or liquidate part of the business, or establishing an online sales platform, or securing sufficient finance to trade through the next 3 months. It could be lots of different things, but these are the critical challenges you need to identify. So one of the things that we always recommend as part of this type of work is risk analysis. And the best way to do this is to create a risk register. And what that does, it assesses the likelihood of each risk, and then the consequences for your business if that risk is not mitigated. So they effectively fall into 10 categories, and this is what we often call the 10 hats in any business, the different departments, etc. So the first one is governance. So the risks in governance might include poor planning, lack of up-to-date policy, poor discipline around working on the business. Leadership. These could be risks around communication or reporting and team morale. Products and services, these risks at the moment might be around things like lack of adaptation or innovation, as we spoke about earlier. Again, for each business will be different. That's why it's important to have to go through this process for each business. Operational risks could be around supply chain. What happens if you go back to work and your suppliers aren't there? Contracts, key customers, these sort of things. Marketing risks would include perhaps poor return on investment, or overspending, or lack of digital presence. Sales risks could be the need to adapt to e-commerce or online selling, risks around poor training or overselling perhaps in these difficult times. Finance risks, well, undercapitalization is a classic one, not enough working capital, lack of sufficient cash flow, poor structure, poor credit control is a really common one, or debtor management in other words for it. Poor reporting or lack of forecasting, in other words, driving blind financially. HR risks would be things like overspending or on people, as it were, and poorly managed restructuring or grievances. Admin risks might be things like lack of automation or outdated systems which can't cope with the developments in the company. And technology risk could be poor adaptation of software or something, not using modern technology. So once you've identified the risks together into a cohesive plan with goals, actions, and responsibilities. Now, a business recovery plan is much more detailed than a normal business plan in that you get right down into the detail for each department of the business. That's like the 10 departments we identified. Your goals need to be SMART and all actions need to be assigned to someone responsible. And that person has to have a deadline, a time-based deadline for completing it. And it should be updated regularly through some form of regular review process. And we would probably say possibly weekly or definitely monthly in absolute max for at least the next 6 months, and then change to quarterly or whatever suits depending on the circumstances. So let's have a look, see how we can pull this all together into one package. So depending on your circumstances, your business package, your recovery package should be your personal budget, which we looked at. As I say, we've got a spreadsheet template that you can use for that. Your risk register, again, we have a template you can be used so you've identified the most pressing risks in the business in each department, and you know what to do about it. Your actual business recovery plan, which I'll show you shortly. Your business forecast, which is based on that bottom-up budgeting, but is spread over a period, say at least 6 months, possibly 12 months. An updated organizational chart if you have a team of people in the business, and if you were applying for finance, you need to, there might be some additional things you might need to make, maybe a cash flow forecast, that sort of thing you might need for the bank or the lender. So you might not need to do all at the same time. For example, you might have enough cash now, but a lot of businesses have at the moment because they've just borrowed £50,000 from essentially from the government, and it's sitting in their bank unless they've gone and bought a car. Like I've seen, there's been a few cases of that. So if you haven't got a team, then you wouldn't need an updated organisational chart. What is important is you establish what is right for you and what combination of these things you need, and who will do them. So what I've got next is an example of a finished business recovery plan. Now it's for a fictional electrical company. I'm not going to go through it in detail, but just enough so that you can see what it should look like when it's completed. So the first thing you see is executive summary, which basically, as it says, summarizes the rest of the plan and says what's going to be happening. And then we've got monthly spending, and that comes from the personal budget we talked about. There's also a look at what you want to achieve in 3 years' time, and any finance that's needed for that. Then move on to the next bit, the bottom-up planning. We want a 10,000 increase in cash. Going to reduce, going to get £22,500 of cash in, all the way up to the net profit after tax, and then net profit before tax, overheads, gross profit, and sales. And then you can split it over the 4 quarters. It might not be equal because there might be seasonality in the business, for instance. So then you've got your critical KPIs. In this particular instance, decided to get the debtor days down, get people paying them quicker, get less stock in hand, improve the gross profit margin, look at the sale, look at a set of sales figure, and board meetings to be held monthly. Then we're on to the opportunities, then the vulnerabilities, and the most critical challenges. Then the bit that makes it all work, which is the departmental planning. So under governance, we've got board reporting, we've got an annual goal, we've got a 90-day goal, 90-day actions, what's actually going to be done in order to achieve those goals, who's going to do it, when they'll have it done by. And that's where the accountability comes in, by reviewing these regularly, all the different departments, who's doing what. Buzz seems to have a lot to do there. And then carrying on down to marketing, sales, operations, finance, and admin and tech. But this is the outcome, this is the plan that's come out of going through the various stages. You can't really jump can't jump straight into the plan without going through looking at the opportunities, the risks, critical challenges, budgeting, personal budget, etc. That all feeds into this. And at the end, you have this full plan, which basically, if you follow it, if they follow it, they should achieve what they're trying to achieve. One other thing to add is need to be flexible. A plan is made, but when it's reviewed on a monthly basis, say, you really need to say, is this all still relevant? Has anything changed, whether internally or in the environment generally, that means that we need to maybe reconsider some of these plans, not as an excuse for not doing them, but because they're either no longer relevant or something more important has come up and has to be changed. So hopefully that's given you some idea of what a business recovery plan will look like and how you would actually achieve it. I'm now going to hand back to Ikra, who will take you through the next steps.
Thanks, Ian. I hope Ian hasn't overwhelmed you all with too much technical detail there. Our goal has been to share with you what business recovery planning is all about and how to do it. So, what are the next steps from here? Doing nothing is not an option. We're entering into a period of business is not normal. So doing what you have always done is unlikely to give you the same results you have had in the past. Remember, put the oxygen mask on yourself first. So the more sustainable you can make your business right now, the better for everyone. Make a plan to get through these challenging times. Focus on what you do as opposed to worrying about what might happen in the future. And we are here for you, and we want to help. Our recommendation is to complete a business recovery plan, and we've been receiving some really good feedback about how helpful this process is. So if you haven't yet done a business recovery plan, now's the time to do it, as it will form a great foundation from which to build your cash flow, as well as a plan on getting things back on track for your business. So we've got a few options here for you to complete the plan. The first one is to meet us online so we can do it together, either as one session of up to 4 hours or two 2-hour sessions. We'll send you in-depth pre-work to complete so you've got time to consider the impact of COVID-19 has had on each department of your business. We'll use that to complete and guide us through the plan and set goals for each department. This ensures that you have a detailed and well thought out plan to give your business the best chance of recovery. The second option is to meet with us online for the business recovery planning session, like I just mentioned just now, and we'll work with you to prepare an updated cash flow forecast. You can see the prices here on the screen for the first two options, and at the moment these prices are 50% off for a limited time. The third option is a complimentary business recovery review. We'll send you a business recovery action list to complete, which is a condensed version of the plan that Ian just went through. This option suits those of you who may have smaller businesses that don't require such a comprehensive business recovery plan. Once you've completed the action plan, we'll schedule in a 15-minute phone call to review your plan and next steps. The risk, however, with this approach is that with everything else that's going on at the moment, you might not get around to doing the work. If you're unsure on the best way forward, or you just want to talk to us about how we can work together, we recommend a complimentary meeting to discuss our goals, current problems and challenges. We can then agree the best way we can support you. If you're going to need to obtain business funding, or if you have already obtained it, we believe that it's vital that you prepare a cash flow forecast. The loan needs to be repaid at some point, even if that is 12 months away. So your business needs to generate enough profit to then convert it into cash to make those repayments. We know it may be difficult to commit to spending money right now. We have different payment options available, so please don't let cost be a barrier. Get in touch and we can work together to come to an arrangement we can manage. We know that the benefits you will get from these services will be far greater than our fee. Most importantly, it's about helping you as quickly as possible and ensuring we are working together with you to build a stronger, more resilient business. If you are interested in any of these options or want to discuss them further, please let us know in the survey that will pop up once the webinar is finished, or you can email us on info@roslinassociates.co.uk, or if you're a current client of ours, just speak to your client manager. So if anyone's got any questions, you can just submit them in the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. Or if anyone's got any questions that they want to ask privately, please just get in touch with us after the webinar. You can get in touch on that email address I just mentioned, info@roslinassociates.co.uk. But if you do need to leave the webinar any time from now, please do complete the feedback questionnaire when you exit. It should only take a couple of minutes. We would be really grateful. So we've got a couple of questions that have just popped up. We've got one here. I love the idea of a business recovery plan, but I am flat out with work right now. How do I free up capacity to do this work?
Right, I'll have an answer on that one. It's the age-old question. How do we find time to work on the business rather than in the business? There's different things you can do, but it all boils down to what is often called the achiever matrix, which was something that it's basically a matrix of important and unimportant, urgent and not urgent. In other words, you divide all the things you do into one of these 4 boxes. So the first thing you can do is look at the non-urgent, not important, because basically you shouldn't really be doing them. So anything you do there, you stop doing, you'll free up some time. But without going into all the detail of the whole idea, the idea is to find the time to do the urgent, sorry, not urgent and important things like planning and strategy. You have to make the time to do that. And what you find is if you do that, a lot of the other types of things on your the demands on your time disappear because you're not continually firefighting. So I always say to people, you have to be creative. How could you actually find the time? Could you just switch off everything, all your technology, and disappear into an office or at home or something like that, and just do it? Just do it. Just find the time. It might only take a couple of hours to do some of it. I'm sure we all waste time doing other things that we could probably do. It's not an easy answer, but I think it's probably the real answer. It's just you have to find the time.
Thanks, Ian. I've got another question here just now. I am concerned I can't afford to do this work. What can you suggest?
Right, so well, there's different things you could do. When you're doing your budget for the future, factor in some of the costs. We can certainly, and as Ikra said, we can adapt payment plans, to suit. We want to do our bit to help in this thing. Obviously, we're a business, so we have to charge something for it. Half the prices, but we can, spread it over a few months, say, and that can be built into your plan, so you know exactly what you have to do with your business in order to have the extra cash to pay us. But it will be fairly, for most businesses, it'll be a fairly small amount relative to the benefits they're going to achieve. Hope that answers it.
Thanks, Ian. Has anyone got any other questions? Just pop them in the Q&A box. Like I said before, if you do have any questions that you want to ask privately, please feel free just to drop us an email and we'll be more than happy to answer any questions. Okay. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for taking the time to attend this webinar. We appreciate that your time is very valuable right now, and we hope that we've given you plenty of ideas to think about and some clear options for how we can support you. Before we go, I just thought I'd share a quote with you. So this is just a parting thought we've got here. Things may never go back to normal. You need to create a new normal, and that's okay. If anything, make a plan today. Commit to at least 3 actions that you will take as a result of being here today. Write them down, give each of them an owner and a completion date. This is a worrying time for many businesses, but you don't need to worry alone. There is a ton of support out there and more to come, and we are here to support you. Thank you again, everyone, for attending the webinar, and please do remember to complete the feedback on exit of the webinar. Thank you.